Well, hey everybody, it's Chris DeFirio with Keys to the Shop, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at La Marzocco. They've been in business of making the world's best espresso machines since 1927. They've been making them by hand in Florence the whole way through. They are known the world over for innovation, for beauty, for dependability. And I don't know what three things you really want anymore from an espresso machine. I've worked on these machines my whole career, and I would gladly choose them every time today. They just keep getting better and better. They have a machine to suit your needs, different configurations, different degrees of technological innovations within the machine. So if you want something a little more analog, they have that. You want something that has all the bells and whistles, the scales in the drip tray, the auto flush, you name it. That machine is there for you as well. But you just need to reach out to La Marzocco at lamarzocco.usa.com or email info@lamarzocco.usa. Their sales folks will gladly help you get your cafe set up with the best gear possible. Again, lamarzocco.usa.com. And we're also sponsored today by our friends at Rattleware. Rattleware.com is where you go to learn about all the great smallwares that your cafe needs to run well. Tons of little things make a big difference. And if it doesn't work right, then it makes the whole thing work in a dysfunctional way, right? You don't want that. You don't want to have to second guess your shot glass or your knockbox and that kind of thing. So enough of the cheap knockoffs and the things that don't work. Get Rattleware for your smallwares in your cafe. Visit them at rattleware.com. Now, today's episode, we're going to be chatting briefly here today about the idea that you are only as good as your worst drink. Now, this idea, it seems unfair because you might do some really amazing work. And the thing is, I don't doubt it, but the customer has a mind that is just like yours, which is somebody who remembers negative experiences often more readily and more vividly than they remember really great experiences. Good coffee, good service, and a comfortable space. We were relaxed. We're not on guard. It's remarkable, but it's not so remarkable that we always remember it. When it's the norm, it becomes just what we expect. But when something deviates from that, it's more notable. Now, when you serve a bad drink on your bar, you have a bad service encounter, or something happens that's very dysfunctional in your cafe, the customer is going to more quickly put that into the category of your cafe is this. And if it happens often enough, it becomes who you are. Try as you might have 75% of the time doing great stuff, but 25% of the time is going to dominate the 75%. When somebody gets an underfilled drink or its coffee is really bitter, I mean, there's a lot riding on this. And this is why we talk about the craft of operations and figuring out the systems behind the bar and great communication, training, quality control. Because if your lowest level of drink is still excellent, then you don't have to worry. But it starts with a mindset shift. You are going to have to shift your mind to always take the high road when tempted to go low. I've done this in my own career where I've served many drinks that I know I shouldn't have served because in that moment, I was not serving the customer, I was serving myself. I was in survival mode. I didn't want to have to remake a drink, dial in a shot. I served what I know is not going to be the best beverage, but that's that phrase, like good enough for who it's for. Maybe you don't. But we make these excuses and we pave the way to compromise when we have the best opportunity to create a image of our brand in the customer's mind. When it's busy is when this usually happens. When there's a lot of customers in the cafe and we're feeling the rush, right? That's usually where we start to feel the pull, the temptation to start to compromise. And that's the worst time to do it, I think, because there's more people there. That's the best time to form the image of who you are in the mind of the customer. So what we need to do in order to raise the lower level of what we serve is to raise our expectations of ourselves individually and then how we train to recognize that inevitable temptation and at that crossroads. Which direction are we going to go when we feel ourselves being triggered into survival, self-focus, and compromise, we will use that trigger to lean into quality control, to recognize, oh, in this moment, this is high stakes, high pressure, lots of people. I'm serving these people. Have a little brief moment of awareness, self-awareness that says, I know that I could, but I am going to be disciplined in not giving in to that temptation to cut corners. In fact, I'm going to take the high road. And eventually you're going to find yourself becoming more in control, stronger, and your worst drinks will become ultimately indistinguishable from your best drinks. The margin of error between the two, the gap between them, is going to get smaller and smaller because you have made little decisions along the way to take the high road when you're tempted to take an easy way out, the low path, right? So that's why we talk about you're only as good as your worst drinks. But if your worst is still really great, it's because you've disciplined yourself to pursue excellence, even when the temptation to compromise rears its head. And we all have this happen in coffee. None of us are immune from it. It's those who use those moments wisely that win the day in the end. So let's go forward with that. Take the next step. Next time you feel that temptation, take the high road. Make that a habit. Make it your identity. Train your staff to recognize this. And I think you're going to see a lot of fruit from that, ultimately in more customer loyalty, better profitability, and more fulfillment in the role. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, you can email chris@keystotheshop.com to inquire about coaching and consulting. We're signing on new clients as we speak. And also there's the key holder coaching groups coming up in September. You want to think about that if you're a coffee shop owner with 2+ years experience. We're creating another group that's going to start in September, probably late September, early October. But coaching and consulting is always available for you. It's just a click away. Check out the show notes. There's a link to sign up for a free discovery call. And I hope I get to talk to you soon. So we'll talk to you next week on another edition of Shift Break, from Keys to the Shop.